With the shootout coming to an end this week, I thought I'd go through the story of the championship so far. Beginning at the start, 16 drivers qualified, 15 through points, 1 through a wild card. Those drivers are number 1 Tom Harris, number 5 Charlie Sauder, number 16 Matt Newson, number 55 Craig Finnegan, number 124 Carl Gray, number 138 Dave Polly, number 175 Carl Hawkins, number 212 Danny Wayman, number 216 Jack France, number 217 Lee Fairhurst, number 259 Paul Hines, number 345 Jake Hari, number 446 Joe Booth, number 463 James Morris, number 515 Frank Wayman Jr, and last but not least the wildcard for this year's shootout for Dutchman 410 Jelle Tesla. The groups that they got put into is now on screen, and stage 1 would begin the day after the World Final at Skegness Stadium. After an awesome World Final, some cars would need a lot of mending before the championship began, including the new 5-time world champion Tom Harris. After his car getting destroyed at the start and at the end of the World Final race, he would need to fix up as soon as possible and get back on track for the World Masters meeting. In what was a mixed day of drive and wet racing, it was Tom Harris who came out on top with a heating final win, taking an early advantage in his group, while a big shock happened in Group C. Dave Polly in his shale car topped Group C after his first time on tarmac in a BriSCA F1. Group D was the toughest group to get out of, 4 top quality drivers that you'd expect to make round 2. It was Matt Newson who took the early lead while Frank Wayman took the advantage in Group B. Round 2 would go to Odsal Stadium, and once again Tom Harris would take top spots, taking a shootout best score to date with 61 points. Joe Booth would outscore Danny Wayman by 17 points to take the crucial second spot in his group. Back on his preferred surface, Dave Polly once again got top points in Group C with another 25, while Craig Finnegan had a poor Skegness but got back equal with Carl Hawkins after Bradford. Jake Hari, who only made red grade at the start of the year, got his shootout going with 8 points. But once again Group D stole the show. 3 out of the 4 drivers scoring over 20 points, Jelle Tesla put himself into an advancing position along with Matt Newson, while Jack France and Charlie Sauder wasn't far off and could easily claw back the points. The final 2 rounds of stage 1 would happen in a way we haven't seen in a while. Northampton hosted 2 meetings in one day to end off stage 1. The second meeting would decide which drivers we would see advance to stage 2. In Group A, Lee Fairhurst would take a crucial 30 points, which would take him away from Paul Hines, meaning Paul had to gain over 28 points on the 2012 world champion to advance. Frank Wayman would confirm his spot in stage 2 along with the world champion Tom Harris, as they both got top of their groups respectively. Craig Finnegan and Dave Polly also booked their stage 2 ticket after both scoring 30 plus point rounds. But once again it was Group D that had everything up for grabs. Jelle Tesla took the top spot after a very impressive meeting, while Jack France and Matt Newson were separated by 10 points. That would become even smaller after Jack won the first heat of meeting number 2. Unfortunately, Charlie Sauder was out with car issues. Matt versus Jack would come down to the final 2 races, with Matt putting Jack into the turn 3 wall at the start of the final. Then a few laps later, Jack ending up stuck on his fellow contender. The Grand National would decide it, and Matt Newson made sure he was the one that went through, slamming on the brakes NZ team style, causing Jack to have an issue in DNF. Jack would be out, Matt would be through. Buxton would hold meeting 1 of stage 2, and in his new tarmac car, Tom Harris would storm to an early lead. A 50-point meeting after winning both of his heats and the meeting final. But the talking point, a massive crash in the final, which led to Jelle Tesla ending up on his side while driving the J Davison car for the first time. Frank Wayman, Lee Fairhurst and Dave Polly would be consistent and have a gap to Jelle after the first meeting, while Joe Booth already had work to do with a 14-point gap to Craig Finnegan. Skegness Speed Weekend would be next, and it was the day of Matt Newson on Saturday night. A final win and 4th in the Grand National meant he took the lead in Group A by a single point over the world champion. Joe Booth would outscore Finnegan by a single point to maintain some hope. Lee Fairhurst scored 5, losing second to Dave Polly, who once again scored well in a shale car on tarmac, taking another wing on the greasy Skeg Vegas track. Jelle Tesla got his stage back on track with 14 points. The Sunday saw Tom Harris and Matt Newson once again top of the points, scoring 43 and 37. Tom Harris taking a dominant final win, while Craig Finnegan may have put the group to bed, scoring 14 points over Joe Booth, who did not have luck on his side. Jelle Tesla wasn't out of it just yet, having scored 14 points over Dave Polly, who picked up only 1 and dropped back to 3rd. Lee Fairhurst retook 2nd with 31 points, while Wayman was almost certain to qualify, picking up 29 points. It all came down to Kings Lynn, and all eyes were on Dave Polly and Jelle Tesla for the final spot in the final stage. It did not start well for Jelle after damaging a DNF in Heat 1, with Dave Polly picking up a point. But it was the consolation where it all came crashing down for the Dutchman, who tried to maximise his points, but sadly got hooked with Michael Scriven on the last bend, ending his hopes of a silver roof. So the final 6 drivers was confirmed, and the next day the battle for silver would begin. Tom Harris, Matt Newson, Craig Finnegan, Dave Polly, Lee Fairhurst and Frank Wayman Jr. would be the contenders. Stage 3 began at a wet Northampton, where the shock of the season happened in Heat 1. Tom Harris clipped a slower car, putting him towards the wall, and over he went. That gave the other 5 some chance to bank as many points as possible. Matt Newson made an early statement, taking the lead before the meeting final. Lee Fairhurst also got involved in some accidents, but pushed on and picked up as many points as possible. The meeting final would have another talking point, as all 6 title contenders went into the wall. As Blue Top Ash England drove away at the front, a battle between Frank Wayman and Dave Polly was in store for second place. As Frankie made the move onto the last lap, Polly lined him up on the final bend to take that position. Unfortunately for both drivers, it wouldn't work. Lee Fairhurst snuck past both for second, as Polly would end up P4 and Wayman losing a spot to a still damaged Harris for 8th. Fairhurst had the lead after the first meeting, closely followed by Dave Polly and Frank Wayman. Even with a damaged car, Tom Harris would bring it home with 32 points and tie with Wayman in P3. Back on the Oddsall Shale for meeting 2, and it would produce one of the meetings of the season, maybe even decade so far. It would start with Wayman taking a Heat 1 glory to put himself into the lead. A train going into the final bend of Heat 2 would see 217 go into the wall and not finish. He would recover in the final heat for 5th, while the world champion returned to winning ways. The meeting final was electric. With a crowded start, all the contenders got through and was now together fighting for the big points. A slow exit from Wayman put Fairhurst and Harris on his rear bumper, and they all pushed into the wall. Somehow Wayman not rolling, and all 3 managed to continue and finish the race. Fairhurst would recover, and after a self-spin for Ash England on the final bend, Lee would take victory and extend his title lead. And not so good for Newson and Finnegan meant they needed a strong tarmac performance at Hennesford to stay in it. Moving on to Hennesford, Tom Harris proved why he's a 5-time world champion, taking both his heats, the meeting final, and coming back to 3rd in the Grand National from a lap handicap, even after some controversy with the yellow flag in the Grand National. He would also be the only shootout driver to make the top 3 all meeting long and taking a 29-point lead into the title showdown. Craig Finnegan on his least preferred surface scored 8, and Matt Newson in his newly outed tarmac scored 18, unfortunately knocking them both out of title contention. So after all of this, we head into this week's meeting with 4 title protagonists: Tom Harris, Lee Fairhurst, Frankie Wayman and Dave Polly. But who will take silver? We will find out soon.